Which would you find more attractive? Signing a check once and getting years and even decades of cash flow that you don't have to do anything for, or swinging a hammer and doing demo and all the repairs involved in flipping and having rental real estate? Well, our guest has done both. He's a superstar in all areas. We're glad to have him. I think you'll find his insights very interesting and hopefully profitable for you in the long run. Stay with us. We're going to start our show in just 1 minute.
Real estate has created more millionaires than any other form of investing. But, how is that working out for you? Did you become a landlord and invest in rentals, expecting monthly cash flow? Only to become burned out, with all of the headaches of tenants, toilets and turnover? Are you shut out of the game by high prices and tough lending conditions? Is all of your investable capital locked up in a retirement account, and you don't know how to put it to work in real estate? Well, you've come to the right place.
Well, welcome back. This is episode 12 of the Worry-Free Cash Flow Podcast. My name is Tom Force. I'm happy to have you with us today. It's been a few months, but we're going to make up for it today with a great guest. He's an amazing real estate agent, real estate investor, note investor, and I can't wait to get you acquainted with Homero Corona. If you're not sure what we do here with notes, I've got a lot of resources that I can show you. Basically, what we do is rather than investing in physical real estate that you might do being a landlord, we actually own the paper. So when you're the landlord, you pay us like the bank. It's very easy, very lucrative, and you don't have the headaches of all that goes into being a landlord. I've got several resources that'll get you caught up real quick. I'm not going to hold up Homero, our guest today, too very long. So let me go ahead and introduce you to some resources now. I've got a book. It's called Financial Freedom Powered by Notes. It's available for free on our website. All you have to do is go to noclubusa.com, click on the area below the top fold, and it'll take you right to the ebook. I'm especially interested in having you read the preface, which talks about my note investing journey to where I have more cash flow than my expenses require. So I've hit that infinity number, and I'd sure hope that we can help you do the same. While you're there, go ahead and sign up for Note Expo 2024. That's November 8th and 9th. If you have any interest in note investing, this is the industry's largest event of the year. We have it right here in Dallas, and I'm actually kind of excited to see who the Note Investor of the Year is for 2024. Last year it was Brett Tanner. He runs the Keller Williams Wealth Mastermind. And the year before was a guy named Tom Force. I won the award 2 years ago. So looking forward to seeing who walks away with it this year. So you can get your tickets on our website. While they last, they will sell out. So go ahead and pick those up if you're interested. I do a Tuesday night webinar now nationally. It's called Tuesday Nights is Note Night. And this is basically the subject of our discussion. It's about an hour long, and I take you through the basics of note investing. So if you're slightly curious about what we do today, go ahead and go to our website, noclubusa.com, and come right on up here to Tuesday night note nights. You can go ahead and register for the next one. Share it with your friends as well so they can see what we're up to. Like I said, done some speaking lately. This is at a title company in Southlake, Texas, back in September. I've done smaller crowds, bigger crowds, but I always like the smaller crowds because we get to talk with a lot of questions, and there's usually a lot of interest in what I have to talk about. And it didn't help, or it didn't hurt at all that we had some wine going at this one. But if anything that you see today on the website with our presentation today with Homero or on our website interests you and you'd like me to talk to your group, I do it in person in Dallas. I can do Zoom around the country. just go ahead and reach out to me. And now, normally I would do some teaching before we get started with our guest, but I'm not sure how long we're going to run today, and I want to give Homero the full scope of our attention. So, like I said, if you have any interest in what we're doing, go to noclubusa.com. That's your starting point. You can reach out to me, and we have all sorts of resources on there, so you can find out how this note investing thing works. Also, if you're watching this and you're having trouble selling your property, we might want to have a conversation about seller financing and you becoming the bank. So reach out to me as well if you'd like to do that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get our sponsors through here, and then we're going to jump right in with Homero. So let's look at our sponsors, and then let's get the party started. So if you need a real estate agent in the DFW Metroplex, anywhere in the Metroplex, because I know Danny travels to towns I've never even heard of, buy, sell, even seller financing representation, go ahead and hit him up. I think this slide's a little bit old. I know he's done a lot more since then, but Danny at DannyForce.com for all of your real estate needs. Now, if you want to learn more about multifamily investing and possibly become an investor in that sphere, go to Deep Blue Capital. Their website is Deep Blue RE. Very robust website, a lot of educational material. Sign up for their newsletter. Learn about how it works, because when the next deal comes along, you might want to be a part of it. In fact, while you're at their site, go ahead and subscribe to their More Doors podcast. I think they're up in the 70s now in episodes, but they bring on experienced syndicators and operators in the multifamily space, and you can't help but learn a lot. You don't know what you don't know. So if you want to learn more about multifamily and the syndication business, make sure you subscribe to the More Doors podcast. Now, we've said it a million times, if you're going to scale your real estate business, you need professionals to help you with various aspects of what you do, and none is more critical than property management for your rentals. And look no further than Homer Property Management. They're very big here in DFW. They've expanded to West Texas. See if they're in your area, but give them a shout. Dana Wynn and the team over there, they knock it out of the park. HomewardDFW.com. Now, one of the many secrets to Homeward success is they actually have their own in-house home maintenance team. And now you can go ahead and use them as well. They're ProCare Home Solutions. All your home maintenance and even remodeling services for your flips, go ahead and give them a call, ProCareDFW.com. You'll be glad you did. Now, for our real busy North Texas real estate agents, you know deep down that if you could pass off transaction management to a professional, you could get more done and make more money. Well, look no further than Infinity Source. Their team is committed to managing transactions and listings with meticulous attention, ensuring that each deal stays on course and progresses seamlessly. By handling the day-to-day tasks that often consume your valuable time and resources, they enable real estate agents to remain in dollar productive mode, ultimately leading to increased efficiency and the ability to close more deals. You got to check them out now, infinitysourcere.com. You may be tuning into our podcast and realize you have a note or a few or a dozen that you might like to unload for some quick cash. Well, look to our partners at TPF Note Buyers. They have an online hub that will allow you to go ahead and submit your information and get a free quote to sell your note. Once again, tpfnotebuyers.com. And finally, if you want to launch your own podcast, get your name and brand out there, don't do what I do and broadcast at home from your fallout shelter in North Texas. Contact my buddy Jesse Showalter at tourstudios.com. He has an expansive studio in North Dallas. Whether you just need post-editing help or the full kit and caboodle as far as a studio and the lighting and all that, he's your guy. He'll make you look professional. That's tourstudios.com. Okay, we're back. We're with my friend, superstar Homero Corona. You'll get to know him through our note school circles, but he's really been lighting on fire around here. I've been itching to have him on. He's a tough guy to pin down, and glad to have him here today. How you doing, Homero?
I'm doing well. How are you, Tom?
Doing great. Staying busy, loving this business just like you do. I follow you on YouTube, and I know you and your partners have a lot going on. So when I do presentations on notes, I like one of your case studies, and glad to have the man on here today to talk about it, give a little bit of credibility to what I'm talking about. So anyway, I know a lot about you, but for those of you who don't know your background, I know you haven't always been in real estate. So why don't you tell me how you started out, your background and what made you get into real estate and when that happened, and just kind of tell us your story.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, Tom. And yeah, for those of you guys that may not know a little bit about my background. So I've been in sales for quite some time. I've done a little bit of different things when it comes to sales. I actually did a lot of network marketing early on. And, I didn't earn a lot, but I learned a lot. And one of the things that, along my journey was all about personal development, getting into some of the books. And one thing that was kind of a common denominator for a lot of successful multimillionaires and people that really created wealth was real estate investing, right? And I always knew that real estate investing was going to be able to, take me and my family to wherever, that I wanted to be, and really get that financial independence and get that residual income, right?
Sure.
Of course, like a lot of folks, I just didn't know how to get started. And, real quickly, right before I got into real estate, the last thing that I did was I was in car sales. So I did car sales for about 4.5 years. The last dealership, I was selling Toyotas. And, the thing that was always, in the back of my mind, I always said every time I sold a car, I'm like, well, getting a commission is great, but what if there would be a possibility to get paid, maybe even if it's a little bit on the monthly note that the buyers are, on the car. I always thought about that. That would be interesting to build something. But of course, you only get a one-time commission. And one thing that we always say in the car sales is you're only as good as your last sale, right?
Right.
You can have a great month, but guess what? Next month, you got to start again. And when I got started in the car business, I knew early on that it wasn't something that I wanted to do long-term, because, I was always going to have to be working. I wanted to build something where if I wasn't really working, I was going to be able to generate, income. And, I think there's different stages and phases in life. And one thing that I've learned, along my journey is that you want to get to the point to where money's working for you. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the main reason I got into notes. So to kind of really help people understand my journey in real estate investing is in 2018 and previously, I had met some friends that were in real estate. One of them was a fix and flipper, and one of them was a buy and hold landlord guy. Right. So I got a chance to ask them both questions. They both helped me along my journey. And in 2018, I got my real estate license. My friend recommended to get my real estate license so I can really get a foundation on contracts, really understanding certain things when it comes to real estate. So that's what I did. And I started wholesaling.
Okay.
One thing that I realized is that the more difficult something is, the less likely people are to do it, and the more opportunity typically, right?
Sure.
So what I started doing in 2018, I started door knocking, right? Mm-hmm. If you guys really get a chance to know me, I'm not really afraid to get no's. I'm not afraid of rejection. And for a lot of people, they are, right? I think one thing that I always say is that it's always worse in your mind than it is in reality. People always think that, people are going to be cursing you out or, pulling a gun when you're door knocking. And that was never the case for me. People were, for the most part, very friendly. Of course, there's, people are going through an unfortunate situation, because when I was door knocking, I targeted foreclosures.
Okay.
So that's
what I was going to ask you, what your target was on that. So for those folks out there who don't know what door knocking is, why don't you kind of take a little deeper dive into what's involved with that?
Yeah, exactly. So the first thing that, like I said, is, what's the most, highly chance that somebody not only wants to, but needs to sell their house is people that are in foreclosure, right? People that are about to lose their house from the bank foreclosing on them. So I grabbed the list, and what I did is I started door knocking, meaning I would actually go to the homeowner's address, to their physical house, door knock them, and basically, try to get them to sell me the house. So that's what I did. I remember one time when I started getting success door knocking, I remember one of my friends that I met along the journey said, "Hey, I want to go door knocking with you. Do you mind if I come?" I said, "Sure, no problem." We went on a Saturday, and he's like, "Man, this isn't that much fun." I was like, this is what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing is that, if you were to door knock, you may go door knocking one day, and you may not get results that day, but you may have a great conversation, or maybe the next day, whatever the case may be. But the thing about it is you only need one person that says yes.
That's true.
And the
timing might not be right for them, but
correct.
If they have your card, they're like, "Hey, that sharp guy showed up on my door. He really wants to work hard." So when the timing is right for selling their. I'm talking about in general, not necessarily just foreclosures,
Right.
but just to get a listing. They'll run. You're planting a seed for later on. So tough way to make a living, but I'm sure you learned a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you learn a lot. I mean, I know somebody I follow too, Alex Hermosi. He always says, you're always going to learn more by making those 10,000 phone calls than any, course or anything you can take. And that's the same thing that I was learning firsthand, what people were going through. And a lot of the things, kept coming up as far as their situations. And like you said, sometimes it just wasn't the right time.
Right.
Maybe they were counting on maybe getting a bonus at work, or maybe being able to get funds from a family, a friend, or whatever the case may be. And sometimes 2-3 weeks before foreclosure, reality sets in and they're like, you know what? There's no way that I can, cure this debt. I need to do something. Let me go ahead and call that guy, or, I'm finally ready. And, that's how I started my journey. Obviously, when you get started, you always got to ask yourself, do you have money? Do you have time? Do you have knowledge? You're going to have any one of those three things. And for me, I didn't really have a lot of funds when I first got started. I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge, but I had a lot of time. And that's why I honed in on door knocking. So,
right. Well, you had a lot of hungry too. And that's important as well. My younger son started off kind of the same way, about 4 or 5 years earlier than you, but he was doing expireds, and that was quite an eye-opening experience. He did literally get chased by a dog once. So,
yeah.
But and what's cool is to look back and you've been successful. He's been successful. He had a team over in North Dallas, a real estate team, and to look back at what you went through to get started, and like you said, to do the things nobody else wants to do, that makes you really great material to be a mentor. And I'm sure you are. We'll talk about that, but you live by example. And you talked about people having fear, and I think you alluded to this, but there's somebody out there says that fear is just false expectations appearing real.
Right.
It's the 6 inches between our head that keeps us from doing a lot of that stuff. So hats off to you, man. I don't know that I could do that. I mean, when you have to, you have to. But that's no,
exactly. Yeah, and like exactly what you were saying. I mean, people just have a lot of fear, and the thing is that you just got to go through it, especially when you're in a situation where you need to make it happen, and that there's people out there that need your help, and that's what was my mindset going in. Is these people really need my help? They're lost. They're going through a possible medical issues, divorces, different situations, and you got to be a problem solver, and you got to really go out there and figure a way to make a win-win situation for everybody, right? So
when you were brand new and you didn't have a lot of experience, were you concerned when you went to the door and talking to folks that you had the fear that maybe you'd come across as not knowing what you were talking about or anything like that? Some people fear that, well, they might ask me questions I don't know the answer to, or something like that. Did you feel like you had to be an expert on everything to go door knock, or you just do it and see where the chips fall?
That's exactly it. That's always kind of been my mindset is, take a little bit of knowledge and a lot of action. Right. So, I would, go to YouTube, and then I also would go to different classes that were, RIAs locally about, different situations. But that's the thing I think that, holds a lot of people back, and could have, would hold me back at times as well, as saying, what do I exactly say to this homeowner? What if I don't know if I'm getting a good enough deal to get it under contract? So many things, right? But I just went out there and just, took action. And I didn't have all the answers at first, but I started learning fairly quickly. And I knew that the more repetitions I got, the better I was going to get, and the better I was going to be able to answer those questions. So for me, really, I'm not the brightest person in the room. And the way that the way that I approached it is, I said, because I don't really understand numbers very well as far as, the renovations and everything like that. I just know that I need to try to get this property for as close to what the debt is on the property. And that was kind of my approach, right? Maybe giving a little bit of wiggle room. The very first house that I actually got under contract was actually a fire damaged property. And I actually have a video on it. I recorded it. I need to release that, but it was kind of crazy. It was actually in downtown McKinney. And I talked to the neighbors, and they're like, yeah, they moved out to the country. They have another house out in the country. So I ended up actually looking at where they lived, and it was about an hour and a half from McKinney. And I'm like, do I want to drive out there? What if I drive out there an hour and a half? All those negative things that stop you, right, from taking action. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. So one day I drove out there, and it was literally in the country, in the middle of nowhere. Their driveway was like almost a quarter of a mile long. And as I'm driving it, just like your son, I'm always fearful, like some dogs chasing me down. Right. Sure enough, I pull up to the property, and there was like all the main big dogs were right there in front of the property. There was like, Siberian Husky, German. And I was like, I got off. Thankfully, the wife came out real quickly and was like, hey, can I help you? I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to buy your house in McKinney. Husband came out. Long story short, they accepted my offer, which was basically what they owed. It was a fire damaged house. I ended up, wholesaling that on Facebook, Facebook groups and whatnot. But that was my first deal, right? And there was a lot of things that I didn't know. And the one thing is, always having mentors or people around. So if there was ever a question, some of the friends that helped me out early on, I would just call them up and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, can you help me out with the contract or whatever the case may be? So that really helped me along the way, is having 2 or 3 people that are willing to help.
Fantastic. And I know you've kind of evolved into one of those folks who helps now, with your YouTube channel and all that. So I love the humble beginnings. So you had some success in wholesaling. Tell us more. How did things snowball from there?
Yeah. So then from there, obviously I started having success, wholesaling. I started getting a little bit more money, and I said, you know what? I know you can make more money flipping, right? My mentality is like, I want to start flipping and door knocking. My very first flip was a door knock on a gentleman that his mom had passed. He had taken care of his mom. He actually literally told me, he said, I don't want anything. I want the bank to take it. I don't care. He was just basically depressed. Right. So I was able to talk him and let him know that I was going to help him. And it was kind of a tough situation because we had to go through a probate to where the title company that I was working with wasn't really investor friendly. They didn't really do a lot of probate. So we're actually days before closing, and they just wouldn't close it for whatever reason. And I remember the escrow officer saying, Homero, I don't know why. I would just take this to another title company. So I had to call a friend, and that was my first flip. I ended up buying a property that, I ended up doing pretty well. And I started doing that, right? Started doing flips. And then I knew that I also wanted to buy rentals, and I started buying rentals as well. In 2020, I bought rentals. And so we still have a small rental portfolio. Okay. And in 2019, I actually went to a note school event, and that's been life changing, right? So I went to an event, and everything Eddie Speed shared, and the fact that, the longer you stay in a deal, typically the more money you're going to make. And instead of doing a job once, you can get paid every single month. Sure. And be the bank. That just made a lot of sense for me. Right.
Right. Just to dial back real quick on that first flip that you did, since you were new, then this is a stumbling block for a lot of people. How did you get your crews to do that? How did you get your trades? How did you assemble your team?
So I assembled my team through mostly referrals, right? The folks that I knew that were in that area, my friends, I said, hey, who do you use? Who's your plumber? Who's your electrician? Who do you recommend? And they gave me 2 or 3 resources. And then I reached out to 2 or 3 of those folks to help me out. But I will say I made a lot of mistakes on my first flip.
Hey,
really mistakes. Right. But I'll tell you one thing. I had room to make mistakes, right? So the first property, I got it under contract for under $30,000. It was a brick house in Mesquite. And we ended up selling it for $165,000. One of the biggest mistakes I'll share is, older homes, now, obviously with the experience, if it has cast iron, you're going to have to replace that. I didn't know that. Yeah. I remember going to the plumber and saying, hey, the toilet's not flushing very well. And I remember him looking at me and kind of like, you're new, I can tell. Oh my gosh, just laughing. I'm like, you have to replace the entire plumbing system. That. He showed me the camera and everything, and that's something I didn't budget for, but I had enough room, right?
That's good. That'll take people under.
Yeah, but I highly recommend is when you're building your crew, for sure, referrals, right? And that's going to help you, find people that know what they're doing and that are reasonable prices, fair prices that are get things done. And that really helped me out.
I'm glad you're able to at least make some profit on that first one, because, that first one's the toughest one. And I think we have a joke, in our circles that there's a lot of people in DFW area who've done one flip because it killed them, either financially, emotionally, or whatever. It just, HGTV makes it look so easy, right, man? It just isn't it? Just, yeah. So
Yeah, for
so
sure.
you found notes. So you found Note School in 2019. So what's your life look like since then?
So, since I got started in Note School, I knew that out of everything that, we've done, and my wife is somewhat involved. She's seen the journey of obviously door knocking, wholesaling, fix and flips, rentals, and then notes. The thing that she loves the most is notes because it's, for us, the least amount of work and typically the most amount of profit, right? I mean, I know Eddie and a lot of people talk about and say, you can make more money with the pen than you can with the hammer, right? And we were really going out there spending a lot of time and energy and resources when we're doing fix and flips, rentals, and things of that nature. But notes just made a whole lot of sense. So we've started focusing and shifting to mostly notes, and we even started selling off some of our rentals to owner finance buyers and creating and originating notes. And
so you're finding you're making more money doing that than just holding them as long-term rentals?
Correct. I mean, just the cash flow is just, significantly higher and a lot less headaches, right? I mean, the only thing you literally got to do is making sure that they make their payment, making sure taxes and insurance are good, up to date. Other than that, you're good. You don't get those crazy phone calls.
Do you self-service your notes, or are you using a servicer?
Yeah, I use a servicer on my notes. So
absolutely.
Whenever we originate them, I mean, obviously something that I learned in Note School is just, we just let the borrowers know ahead of time, hey, there's going to be a note servicer, and, 9 times out of 10, the borrower pays for that note servicer anyways. So
right. But when you're creating the note, obviously you can put that in the terms.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I want to talk about one of your deals that I showcase, and I'm going to talk about in this podcast. So I'm going to show the slides, but when I do speaking events where I go out and talk about notes, and I love that saying, you can make more money with a pen than a hammer. I'm definitely going to have to steal that. I talk about your land deal up in Whitewright, Texas. I mean, I look at that, and that's literally money out of thin air, and you had to have the connections, and, I simplify it to make it look easy. But if you wouldn't mind, why don't you kind of walk us through how that deal started, how it worked out numbers wise, and where it's at today, because I think it's a fascinating story. When I tell it, people are like, no, that can't possibly happen. Well, folks, here's the man right here who did it. So I just kind of want to hear you take it kind of from beginning to end.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, I think we all have limited beliefs, and it's always great to hear and hear, the situation or story, an example of that exact situation, right? And that exactly thing happened to me, and I was hearing people doing deals on land, and that could also be very profitable, right? So what I did actually is I sent out a small campaign of people around my area that owned, I think it was 20 plus acres. And I just started reaching out, and I got in contact with actually a owner of land that was inherited, right? The funny thing is his father was actually a real estate investor. So his father had, about half a dozen rentals, and, he had that 65-acre ranch where he grew up on, and he had a sister. So his father passed away years ago. And when his father passed, him and his sister came into an agreement, and he told his sister, you know what? I really want the ranch I grew up in. You can have the half dozen rentals. And that's the agreement they came up with, and they were all happy, right? So, 65-acre ranch, and 40 out of the 65 acres he had sold on the retail market with a licensed agent. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I think he got about $500,000 for the 40 acres, right? Yeah. So he had sold that, and then he still had 25 acres left. A few acres, about 3 to 5 acres, his son lives on a house on that 25 acres. So when I reached out to him, he said, yeah, you know what? I might consider selling about 20 acres. So he wanted to keep 5 acres for his son, and about 20 acres is what he wanted to sell. So we started the conversation, and I remember walking the property. He took me on his ATV, and we drove it, and I'm like, man, this property is beautiful. And one thing that I know, based on our mentors that they, teach is the installment sale, having the ability to give you your equity over time, as opposed to a lump sum of payment.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of folks, whenever they sell, whether it's land or a single family house, typically it's the most amount of money that they've ever seen in one transaction.
Sure.
Right. And for a lot of folks, they just don't know how to manage that money. And that's exactly what happened with this particular family. Is he told me, he said, me and my wife discussed it, because one of the things that I asked him is, I said, would you guys consider for me buying the property, but instead of giving you a lump sum of money, just giving you payments over time?
Right.
And
as I understand it, they sold the first 40 acres, and it was like, almost $500,000 or so, right? Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they burned through it pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, he went out there, he showed me, he's like, man, look at it. I just got a triple wide. I got an RV.
Yeah.
I got, he bought all his toys, and that money went quick. In less than 6 months, I think it was all spent.
Wow. 6 months.
He was out of cash. And that was the reason that they wanted to sell the 20 acres. So when I said, would you be open to getting payments over time? He actually said his exact words. Me and my wife discussed it. My wife said that she actually prefers that, because it would make her feel more comfortable knowing that she would get a steady stream of income,
right?
Knowing that we're not all going to spend it. And he started chuckling, because he's like, yeah, we would probably spend it on something silly if we just get the money.
Yeah.
So he preferred that.
That's good.
So then, the next step was, okay, let's get a survey to find out exactly what the acreage is, because he had an idea, and he kind of drew out what he wanted to separate, keep it for his son, and what he wanted to sell me. So we ended up getting a survey, and the numbers ended up coming out to about 16 acres.
Okay.
So numbers ended up coming out to about 16 acres, and we had agreed on a price. So once we were starting to really get the final numbers, our initial conversation is, he said, I'm okay giving you terms, as long as you can give me my asking price, which is the same price that, I got when I sold it on the retail market last year.
Right.
And I looked at it and I said, that's fair. That's a fair number. And I think it was $18,500 an acre.
Okay.
So once we were getting ready to get the final numbers and start getting the agreement together, he said, hey, let's meet up. And he's like, let's meet up at a restaurant. And I know Eddie gets a kick out of it. He started laughing. And the restaurant was a gas station out here in North Texas where they sell food.
I've seen the picture in your presentation. Yep.
So we go to
whatever it takes.
Yeah. So we go to a quick stop, and we sit down, we start talking, and, we're like, okay, we're good on the price per acre, 18.5. We're good there. Okay. Down payment. We'd like a down payment. I said, okay, let's talk about that down payment. What are your cash needs? What is it that you guys are needing? And they're like, well, we'd like to get about $50,000. And I said, well, $50,000, that seems like a little high. I'm not sure I can do $50,000, but I could probably do something. What if I can do 25? Okay. I say, great, like we can do 25. So we agreed on that. And the next step is like, okay, let's agree on a monthly payment, right? We didn't talk rate. We're just, what's the monthly payment? They're like, can you do $1,500 a month? We'd be great with that. And of course, I mean, obviously, I'm just always trying to get the most comfortable, lowest down, monthly payment as possible. So I said, what about $1,000? That's what I was thinking.
Right.
So, and we agreed. And he said, you know what? If you could do $1,200, I think that's fair. $25,000 down, $1,200 a month. Okay. I said, okay. So I'm going to pay you $1,200 a month until the property's paid, and then $25,000 down.
Right.
And he said, that's fair. We shook hands. Everybody is happy. We took pictures. And then I said, okay, let me start working the agreement together. So the next day he calls and he says, hey, me and my wife were thinking, we were doing the numbers, and $1,200 a month, man, that's going to take forever for you to pay us off. We're in our 60s. I don't even know if we're going to live that long.
Right.
And they were a little concerned about taking so long for them to get paid. So we ended up, putting on the agreement that we would do a 12-year balloon. And they were comfortable with that. And I said, okay, well, we're going to pay $1,200, and then there's going to be a smaller balloon at the end of 12 years, and I'll make sure to get paid. Worst case scenario. Right.
Okay.
I said, great. So that's the transaction. That's how I
0% interest. It was never even discussed.
0% interest. He was never discussed.
It
and
happens.
The crazy thing, even the title company, when I sent them the agreement, they're like, hey, I think there's a mistake here. You guys didn't put the interest rate, or I don't see it, or is it
They don't know
0%.
how to put that in. They have to have something, right?
Right. Yeah, they were a little concerned. So they actually made me re-sign the contract with the seller and say, hey, can you explain and making sure that he knows this is a 0%? So I had to go and say and basically explain to the seller, hey, I know we agreed on these numbers. The title company just wants us to make sure that they're all good and for them to draw up the note and the deed of trust. Of course, we agreed $1,200 is 0%. Okay, yeah, of course, yeah, that's great. So they were more concerned and happy with the $1,200 in the down payment. That's what they were wanting.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. So that's the acquisition side. So
that was the acquisition side.
Okay. So now tell the like the story goes, tell the rest of the story.
Right. Yeah, the rest of the story, right? The really good part, right?
You don't really want to own the land. I mean, it's nice to have, but
it's nice to have, but it's going to be a cost for me, right? I'm gonna have to pay $1,200 a month, and it
not generating any income.
Right. It doesn't generate any income, right? In this business, for me, I want cash flow now, right? So I knew that it would be a desirable property for somebody. So what I did is I made literally one phone call, one message to somebody that I previously had sold a 2-acre tract in Anna, right?
Okay. So
this buyer, he owns a very successful excavation company, right? Okay. So when I sold him the 2-acre tract, he was just really buying the 2 acres to really store his trailers and his equipment, his tractors, excavators, all that.
Right.
And I remember when I talked to him, he said, well, if things go well, maybe in the future you can help me get some more land, I might grow out of this. Right. So I remembered and I said, hey, I haven't talked to this person in about 2 years. Let me reach out to him. Maybe it's time. Maybe he's looking. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I got this 16-acre tract out in Whitewright. It's about, 18 minutes or so from the last property that I sold you. Would you be interested? I'm going to sell it to you. And then I had told him a price of $26,500 an acre. And he's like, sure, it sounds interesting. I'm actually looking for something just like that. Send me the address. So I sent him the address and he said, man, this is something that I think I'm really interested in. When can we go out there? Once we had the survey done, we went out there on a Sunday afternoon and I show him and I walked the property. We already had the pink flags from the survey. I showed him exactly where the property was that we were selling. And, he's like, man, this is exactly what I need. I can, put a driveway here and put my equipment. I don't know, maybe putting some cattle in here, get an ag exemption. I don't know. But price is fair. Everything is good. So for us, we just needed to talk about, obviously, the payments as well and the down payment rates and all that, right? As we're walking the property on a Sunday afternoon, I said, well, this is the deal. I can give you, the property at $26,500 an acre. And, I'm looking for at least $50,000 down, but I'll give you a little bit better rate if you can do $100,000 down.
Okay.
I said, I'll give you 10% rate if you do $50,000 down, or if you can do $100,000, I'll give you 9%. Okay. He said, I'll do 9%. I'll give you $100,000. He said, I'll wire the money tomorrow, actually.
Awesome.
And I was just like, wow,
I'll take 10 of these. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do these every day. And the last thing is, I said, do you want to do a 10, 15, 20-year term? What kind of term are you thinking? And he says, well, I'd like to pay it off fairly quickly. Let's go ahead and do 10 years. And he says, can you tell me what the payment would be if I do 10 years? And I'm thinking in my mind, like, wow, that's going to be a pretty high payment.
Yeah.
So obviously in my phone, I had my financial calculator, 10B financial calculator, plug in the numbers, right? $326,000 loan at 9%, 120 months. And it ended up being $4,135 what his payment was after $100,000 down. So nice. I said, hey, your payment's going to be $4,135. He said, okay, great. That's fine. Sure enough, dropped the contract. He wires the title company, the $100,000. We close, We
had a simultaneous close. So actually, same day. So you never really took possession of the property for more than a couple hours.
I could have done it, but on this one, I actually did do, they were about a week apart. I ended up closing on the first one, and I had my cash, so I did give $25,000 cash, but it was only a 1 week apart because I knew, obviously, that I'm going to do it. But I could have probably extended it and done it. But yeah, So
Gotcha.
essentially, I got $75,000 on the closing table, and then I got to pay $1,200, but I'm receiving $4,135. So I'm netting basically $3,000 a month, and that deal was just eye opening for me and my wife, and we were like, "Wow, we're making more on this deal than almost on all our rentals combined as far as cash, right?"
Right. For one deal and literally zero out of pocket. I mean, you stroke the check for 25, but you get 100,000 back,
The next
in a
week.
week. I'll sign me up for that plan. I'll do that. And you're making nearly $3,000 a month for the next 10 years. And, when I tell your story, people say, well, what about the balloon? And like, yeah, what about it? I mean, honestly, it's going to be gone. On the surface of it, obviously, you're going to take in far more to pay it off. But let's talk about, purchasing the note, as far as, you had a seller who has an appetite for cash. And so, I imagine that they're going to come to you, and maybe that's already started, trying to accelerate the payments a little bit.
So that actually happened significantly sooner than I expected. Literally, almost the first several payments. So when I did it, I let him know, hey, this is going to be set up to a servicer. You're going to get your payment the first or second Thursday of every month, right?
Okay.
He literally wanted his payment on the first of every month, as long as a weekday. So that just helped me realize that he just
was going.
Yeah, he was going
quick.
Yeah, it was going to be going quick. So earlier this year, he calls me and he says, hey, is there a possible way you can give me some extra cash? I'm running into a situation where my son's AC went out and I need to replace it and I don't have the cash. And I said, well, I can't help you right now. What I can do, let's do this. Let me have one of my guys go out there, check your system. Maybe it's an easy fix. Maybe it's a few $100s instead of having to pay. I think he got quoted $12,000 to replace it. And he's like, I don't have $12,000. You need to replace the entire HVAC system. So one of my guys goes out there, and he goes out there and he's like, hey, Homero, I looked at it. Unfortunately, this one does have to be replaced. However, I'm able to replace this system for you for like $5,500, $5,600, I think. So I said, hey, good and bad news. The bad news is obviously, yes, you do need to replace the system. The good news is my guy's basically going to do it for half of what your guy can do it with the 5-year warranty, carrier, whatever, right?
Nice.
And he says, well, I just don't have the $5,000. Is there any way that you can give me, maybe an advance of the payments or something? This literally came from him. He sent me a text message and he said this. He says, if you can give me the $5,600 to replace this HVAC, you can take $10,000 off the note.
All right. Sounds good.
Sign me
up. Right off the principal, huh?
Right off the principal.
Wow. Okay.
So I did that.
Okay.
Right. Well, several months later, he starts reaching out and he says, man, I don't know. I think I just, getting $1,200 a month is okay, but I think we'd like to just get a lump sum of money. I'm thinking I may just sell the note. So he actually reached out to FNAC.
Okay.
So FNAC, and I told them, do they know that it's a 0% note? They're like, yeah, they know. And I said, okay. And he told me, he says, if you're willing to work with me and you're willing to do it, I'd rather sell you the note or, do something with you versus, somebody I don't know.
Right.
And also because they were needing it done fairly quickly.
Sure.
So what FNAC was wanting to buy is they was wanting to buy the note, right? The income stream and leave him with the balloon.
Okay.
So they wanted to buy the $1,200 month payment up until I think 2035.
Okay.
So I started doing the numbers, and basically what it came out to is he told me that they quoted him that they were willing to pay $84,000 for the remaining payments, which was I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was about $140,000 worth of payments.
Okay. So take care of the note all the way up to the balloon, which was about $140,000. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. $1,200 a month. That sounds about right. So they're going to pay him a lump sum of $84,000. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I said, you know what? obviously I want to get that discount, right?
Right.
And I don't want to, I don't want to, pay the $84,000 out of my pocket.
Right.
So to one person in the, in my network, I sent him an email. I said, hey, I have an opportunity. I know you've been wanting to buy a note or do something with notes. I have an opportunity to hypothecate this note. So I need a loan against this note.
Okay.
So I could pay him off. Right.
Right.
So what I ended up structuring is I ended up getting a loan against my note.
So you're getting a loan against the buyer
$4,000
of the property.
Yeah,
so
correct.
The big payment. I just want to clear that up for everybody.
Correct. So my $4,000 note that I own,
Mhm.
I'm getting a loan against that.
Sure.
Right? So his balance is about $300,000. So what I did is I got a $105,000 loan.
Okay.
To pay him the $84,000 and
Nice.
to keep some in my pocket.
Beautiful.
So the numbers ended up working at $105,000. I ended up hypothecating $105,000 at an 8% yield. What it came out to was about $2,100 a month to the person that was lending me the money against the note.
Okay.
And they were going to get an 8% yield and get paid back in 60 months.
Wow. So you wiped out everything but the balloon.
Correct.
And you're still, from what I understand, you're still making some arbitrage. Or you're still, keeping the difference between what you're paying FNAC every month and what your buyers pay.
Yeah, correct.
That's beautiful.
So I'm still netting about $2,000 a month, and I paid off the payments.
And in 5 years, we'll be back to getting $4,100 a month.
Correct.
That's an awesome twist, man. And I have a feeling you're going to be able to buy back that balloon at a discount as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably end up buying that balloon for about 10 cents a dollar.
Yeah. So
I almost bought it.
Just set a little bit aside each year, and when he comes knocking, which is probably going to be pretty soon, be able to knock that out. Awesome story, man. And it's you have any other great stories like that, or are they all pretty straightforward note deals? We don't have to go into it in deep, but
I mean, there's several stories, but I mean, I think what people really need to understand is as I like to say now too, the money's in the money, right? Really understanding financial modeling and what you can do with notes. There's just so many things that you can do with notes that I had no clue, right?
Right.
I didn't know that you can get a loan against a note, and come to find out, a lot of banks do it, right?
Right.
A lot of hard money lenders do it, right? They'll lend you, the money, and then they'll take that note as collateral and to get 60-70% against that note or whatever the case may be. So, so now, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing with, my partner, Joe, who's just an incredible person and, very giving. Right now we're getting ready to close on a 10 note portfolio here in North Texas. And
are these performing, non-performing?
These are all performing notes that all been seasoned for about 10 years.
Nice. Fantastic.
And, the loan to value, investment to value is like 30-40% on all of them. So it's just a great deal. And
how'd you guys find that?
That actually came through referral through somebody that was in my network that contacted him originally as a landlord, because he is a landlord, and he's a tire landlord. He just wants to get out of the business completely. So we ended up buying 2 rentals from him earlier this year. And he told me he had a note portfolio that he was considering selling. And we started the conversation, and, we came to an agreement, and, he just seems like he wants to get out of the business. He's been in the business since, I think, the 90s.
Okay.
He built a lot of homes out here in Grayson County in that area. And, he just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. I mean, the thing with him is that he's self-servicing the notes.
A lot of work.
And that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I started talking to him and asking him, are these being serviced by a note servicer? And he's like, what's that?
Okay.
So,
yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're doing it right in your own state.
Right. But it is work.
It is work. And there's a lot of accounting involved. And, the consequences of screwing up are pretty significant.
Right. I mean, for me, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, it's $35 a month for a note servicer, and they're worth their weight in gold. And like I said, whenever we originate them, the borrower's always paying that fee anyways. So for me, I just think it's important to have a note servicer.
Absolutely. So, We'll wrap up here a little bit. It's been a great talk, man. You're very inspirational. So you and Joe, what's your business plan going forward? What does the next couple of years look like for you? What do you obviously you planted seeds a while ago and they're bearing fruit. It sounds like you have a network now where folks are contacting you and you're getting deals. So what does the future look like for you? What are your immediate goals and what are you guys doing to make the most of that?
I think our goals are just to give back, as you mentioned early on. Is we're doing webinars, we're doing in-person live events here in McKinney, North Texas area, where we're just talking on notes,
Okay.
all the different things that you got to learn, because it is a process. So we're giving back, we're doing that. We're even thinking about putting a small mastermind together with people that have a little bit of experience, that we can all collaborate, help each other out, kind of see what's working, and we all need different things, right? So we're putting that together. You're probably the first person that we haven't even talked about it other than us, but we're actually getting ready to write a book together.
Okay.
So we're writing a book together, just talks about note investing and how to use note investing to build your retirement. That's what Joe did. I'm sure you'll probably interview Joe, but his story is pretty inspirational as well. Retired
Yep.
engineer to successful note investor.
Right.
So I like your story as well. I know we haven't had a chance to deep dive, but I think that's pretty cool on everything that you're doing as well and giving back. So we're looking to just give back and create a network of opportunities for people to be able to do deals together, learn from each other. And yeah, I think, out of everything that we do, we just really enjoy giving back. And that's really exciting for us.
Well, that's what I like about our community is it is fairly small, and where you and I share a goal of growing it, but at the same time it's fun because I don't look at you as my competition.
Right.
If we're out there fighting for the same homes and the same deals and all that, that's one thing, but we're not. There's plenty of pie out here for everybody, and when you can go and create money out of thin air, there's nothing to fight over. The opportunities there are incredible. So I look forward to trying to work with you to build that up here in Texas and elsewhere. But my hat's off to you, man. I wish I had discovered this when I was your age, because you're rocking it, you're killing it. How can people reach you? Let me promote you as far as I know. You got a YouTube channel and other things. I know you've got a podcast. Give me a couple of ways people can reach you or learn more about Homero and how he's killing it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a couple of different resources. You guys can, go to my YouTube channel. It's just my first and last name. So Homero Corona for YouTube. You should be able to find my channel on Facebook. The same thing. Just look for my name, Homero Corona. You can send me an email to info@notesinvesting.com.
Okay.
So that's a website. My website is notesinvesting.com as well. And, Instagram as well, my first and last name. Those are, I would say, the main ones I'm pretty active in. I do have LinkedIn as well. I'm not as active, but Facebook is definitely the most active for me. And I highly suggest anybody watching this, podcast to keep tuning in. You're going to learn something every week and go to the events. The events can be life-changing. And I know there's a big one coming up that I'm going to be attending. I'm actually going to be speaking at that event. It's Note Expo here in November. So I highly encourage for you guys to attend that. And, would love to stay in touch, and, I'll reach out and, help out as best as I can. I appreciate you having me on, and you've been a great resource as well. I mean, I got a chance to talk to your son as well. He's definitely a rock star, and you guys are crushing it. So congratulations on your retirement.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's been busy. I just find that the time that I thought I had, all of a sudden everything kind of swamps me and I'm still busy. But the bottom line is I'm doing what I want to do. And
exactly.
that's the big thing. And I enjoy talking to you because it's evident that you're not working anymore. You're enjoying what you're doing. And when you enjoy what you're doing, you're helping people, making money. It doesn't seem like a grind or a job,
No.
and I'm really happy for you. So thanks so much for joining us, Homero. I'm going to get all your information out there. And for those of you who want to see him in person, if you got time, sign up for Note Expo. I'm going to have some info here as we come back from the break. But you can get tickets, pick Homero's brain, see him speak. Just a treasure trove of not only knowledge, but inspiration. It just, man, you put your nose to the grindstone and just rock. So I'm blessed to have you on my show today, and I'm sure everybody got a lot out of this, and we look forward to having you back, and wish you all the best, my man.
Appreciate you, Tom. Yeah, we'll talk to you
soon.
Hi. Have a good one. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, I don't know about you, but as my mentor would say, if that doesn't light your fire, your wood must be wet. What a great guy. What a great story. What a hard worker. I love the story about the land, and I use that as a case study and all of my teachings about notes. Just creating money out of thin air. And it's nothing special other than hard work. He took his knowledge, went out there and put it to practice. So it's nothing you can't do. You just need to have the knowledge, and we strive to provide that. So we have a lot of resources on our site. Make sure you go to Homero's Assets as well, his YouTube channel. He and his buddy Joe Zentner out there putting out content just about every day. We're a small community, but we're a profitable community. I would love to see it expanded. That's why I do all this. So anyway, until we join you next time, go ahead and take in what you saw. Come learn more, and we'll see you next time. Maybe we'll see you at Note Expo, but anyway, we'll see you on the next podcast. Take care, be profitable, and we'll see you next time.